Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the regular town council meeting of December 4th, 2019. The first item after Pledge of Allegiance is approval of the agenda. Council, I don't know of any changes to make tonight, so I'll go ahead and entertain a motion on that.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve this evening's agenda.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve tonight's agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you, council. Next item is a consent agenda. We have two items tonight, the town council meetings for November 20th of 2019. There is one correction. I believe you found it on your table here, the last page. They got the correct date for passed, approved, and adopted as today instead of the 20th. And in the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting minutes for November 12th, 2019.
Mayor, I did want to pull these for work.
Which ones?
Both. I guess we could just, I don't know, can we do that in consent agenda then? Probably not.
What do you want to work on?
Well, so the meeting minutes did not make reference to the nepotism comments, so I was worried about that. And then the other part is for P&Z meeting minutes. I noticed that they said that Ms. Huppert's was on there, but she had resigned that morning. She had already resigned, so I don't know why she's still on there.
What about this on the nepotism? Where did you want that? Where's that at?
Let me pull that up. It was during the discussion of the comp plan and how the process was tainted, and it was also on the minutes when I suggested a change in the minutes to make sure that the previous minutes referenced.
They have that.
It just said an edit, but it didn't really say what the edit was. So the one spot is on page 3 of 5DA, matters from counselors. One of the big concerns was nepotism in that area about the comp plan. And then the other area must be on page 1. Yes, under section 2, under vote, where Councilor Hawley suggested an edit to page 4 regarding the adjournment of the meeting, and I suggested an edit to include the comment made by Karen Kaiser during public comment, but that should really refer to the nepotism violation. So in those two places. And then, like I said, on the P&Z minutes, I know that Cheryl had resigned already, so I think that needs to be taken off.
Well, we don't play with the minutes from another board. If there's an issue here, P&Z will need to address it. We don't rewrite other boards' minutes.
Sure. Well, I guess it's just cause for pulling it, and you wanted to know why I wanted to pull it. She wasn't there, was she? Was she there?
It says that she was in attendance.
But I mean, is that actually right? I'm thinking maybe it was just a typo.
I'm assuming it's correct.
But she had resigned. Can anyone,
Well, I don't know what
staff
to tell you.
clarify if she was there or not?
She was there.
Okay. She was there, but she had resigned. Okay. How is that possible?
I don't know when her resignation was effective.
She handed me her resignation letter that night when she walked in the door.
Walked into the meeting or exiting?
She handed me it when she was there, when she walked in the door. But she was going to be participating in that meeting. She said, "This is my last meeting."
I had just heard that she resigned before that and sent in her resignation before that time. So that was my confusion. So do we know where that stands?
Well, Counselor Abraham asked that we talk to Randy Audio. He reviewed it, and he says didn't see a problem with it.
What did she ask him to look at?
It was an email that came in from her wanting to know if she'd been at the meeting and if there was a problem with that. And he looked at the record, I guess, and said there wasn't.
Okay.
So where was your second edit or whatever on the first page?
Yeah, so on page 1, I think it just needs, again, just for clarity in the record, that under vote, under section 2 consent agenda, where it says suggested an edit to include the comment made by Karen Kaiser during public comment on nepotism violation. We need to refer to the nepotism violation in there. And then the second spot was
Your comments.
my comments, just, and really that's where we were, yeah, my comments, but it was also in relation to the comp plan. So maybe that's another spot. I don't see it in here. We could just put it under section 3B, where it talks about how Counselors Abraham and Counselor Jaramillo expressed their concerns with the document. They suggested changes be made regarding the language about the PER. But we do need to add a sentence in here about our concerns, or I don't know if Counselor Abraham said anything about this, but I remember talking about the undue influence and tainted process that it had gone through and not properly reflecting what the public wants. And that's under section 3B.
Mr. Mayor, may I make a suggestion? We have all this recorded. Perhaps Counselor can work with staff offline and then bring this back for approval at the next meeting.
Okay?
That's fine. Yeah, that's why I wanted to pull it for work.
So does that leave the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting minutes the only thing on the consent agenda? I'll entertain a motion on that.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion, we approve what's remaining on the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the remainder of the consent agenda. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed?
Nay.
Next item, discussion items. The public sign-up sheet. Get it? Sure. Okay, first person signed up tonight is Jerry Powers.
Good evening. My name is Jerry Powers. I live here in Edgewood. My comments tonight are regarding the input that we got from the over 300 people that went to the Legacy Church meeting on November 14th. And at that meeting, the election platform for Mayor Bassett was discussed, and I have a copy with me tonight. One of the items is spend more money on roads and less on attorneys. I noticed that there was $18,000 spent on EPCOR with the attorneys, which there was a tremendous sentiment against the takeover at that meeting. And there's a proposal to spend $2 million if condemnation is entered into for the town of Edgewood's legal fees, and another $2 million, which town could be liable for EPCOR's fees. So the content of my comments tonight are really about public input, and the public voted for Mayor Bassett, and they have a right to expect what they were promised when they voted Mayor Bassett in. So the expenditure of legal fees is going directly opposite what was promised in the platform. The next item is welcome input from all citizens. There were over 300 people at that meeting. The opportunity was there to listen to the citizenry, and Councilor Abrams was not there, Mayor Bassett was not there. It was a tremendous opportunity to accomplish that goal, and the public noticed that and made comment about it. The other thing that has happened is in one of these items, it talks about no more public tantrums and disrespect by the governing body. Last meeting, the mayor was cursing at the audience and showing a tremendous amount of disrespect for what their opinions are and what their concerns are. I've only got a few seconds left. I looked in Robert's Rules of Order, and it is possible and it is common practice to yield time. I'm asking if anybody here would yield their minutes to me.
Sir, we only allow each person 2 minutes.
Have you not adopted Robert's Rules of Order?
We have, but we don't have that in process for the public. We let them have the 2 minutes. We don't let one person go on and on and on.
Well, I think my comments will represent a fair number of people in here, and it would be an economy of time for everybody to be able to continue.
Sir, your time is up.
So you're standing on that, even though Robert's Rules of Order has been adopted and there's
Yes.
conflict with that? Okay,
Standing
we'll take
tradition.
that up in a different venue then.
So point of order, Mayor, if we have adopted Robert's Rules of Orders in our operating resolution, then we should allow other people to yield time
Well,
to
Counselor,
others.
it's been a tradition here, 2 minutes per person, so everybody can get in their comments.
Add my 2 minutes onto it.
I
Come
heard,
up and give yours. Next person up is Heather Mitchell.
Mayor and councilors, I understand that tonight is sort of the eye on Edgewood and what they want to see happen, but we're also the eye on Ridgewood. I understand the city wants to put the sewer system into Ridgewood area. Us as a big part of the city, we do not want that in our area. That's the eye on our community. We don't want it there, we don't need it, we have 11 houses. I understand that's the direction you want to go, but it's a financial burden that the city doesn't need to take, because we're all been told that we've been exempt as long as we are in compliance, so there's no need to run that down our roads. And I appreciate that, and I understand the 2 minutes. So somebody else can take the stage, but we don't want it down our area. That's not the eye on Ridgewood. It might be the eye on Edgewood, but not on our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person is Eric Schultz.
I did a quick calculation. There's 19 homes on West Church and Ridgewood. And somebody told me it was $1.8 million to run a sewer line down there. If you divide that by 19, it comes to $94,000 per house. If we need more liquid waste, washing machines, showers, it would make more sense to pick up a hotel, the RV park, which you looked kind of strange at me when I said somebody told me they were going to put that into the sewer system when we were told they couldn't do that. I don't understand what this push for West Church is. It would make a lot more sense to go up Quail Road where there's a whole lot more houses and it'd be an economy of scale. I also got a phone call saying that they were going to ram through the sewer project tonight and that everybody needed to show up. That's against state law. You've got to have an open meeting, you've got to advertise it. I also don't understand why you three on that side of the bench want to take over the water company. The water is regulated by the PRC. You can't change the quality of the water. So why would we spend all that money and put everybody in town at risk financially to have the city run the water? From what I understand, you can't even run the sewer plant correctly. EPCOR said that they were willing to take it over and had people that were qualified and would run it, and we're told, no, thank you. I'm not following the processes here, and I'd like somebody to answer the questions. I think that I'm asking respectfully, I'm trying to be nice about it, but I have issues with corruption. I don't want to put in a $6,000 septic system for the city to show up in 3 minutes and say, or in 3 years or 3 months, say, oh, you need to give us $10,000 or $20,000.
Thank you.
That's not fair to me.
Next person is Linda Burke.
Good evening, Council. I'm just here to give an update from the Chamber. There's some events coming up in the next few days. Our mixer is tomorrow night. It is our end of the year winter mixer that we try and recognize the accomplishments of our members. And so it would be wonderful if some of you could attend and participate in that. It's from 5 to 7 at Comfort Inn and Suites in Edgewood tomorrow night. December 6th is the town tree lighting, and December 7th is the cookie decorating at the town library. So some other events coming up for the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Next up is Shannon Toon.
Mayor Bassett, Ms. Hawley, and Mr. Abrams, we know you're not interested in what we, law-abiding citizens, have to say, as is true with all corrupt people. So this is more to bolster morale for the virtuous people in the room. In the last meeting, you repeatedly said that the people were in favor of the sewer line, but you know very well that no one is in favor of the sewer line going through your pasture. Your deception is on par with your corruption. You act as though this whole room is full of ignorant people who can't see past your redundant words. You kept saying that the engineering company never said anything about the sewer lines, as though their opinion matters. More corruption. The survey, you know, and it's what you count on. People are too busy to pay attention to or participate in surveys. But when the people speak out against what they do not like, that is when you should be listening and doing what they say. Your idea to default to the survey is more show of your corruption. Nepotism. We all know that life is busy. Starting a new job has its difficulties, and we're all human. But that doesn't excuse you from not attending to the matter of nepotism. Your cousin should be released of her duties now, and an honest person would not have glossed over it as though it were not an issue that needed to be dealt with. Insolent attitude. You were so rude in your dealings with your constituents in the last meeting. The fact that you wouldn't let someone give their time to another person shows your fear of hearing truth spoken. You are in this position to hear and act for the people, not for your own corrupt personal agenda. You three should be ashamed of yourselves. Ms. Jaramillo and Ms. Abraham, in contrast, you should be very proud of yourselves. Thank you for your commitment to truth and for standing firm and fighting against all this shameful corruption and debauchery. We appreciate all your hard work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is Jeremy Toon.
I too would like to thank Councilors Jaramillo and Abraham for working for the citizens and taxpayers of this town against the massive opposition we see up here. Without you fighting back, Edgewood, under the leadership of Mayor Bassett, would certainly be heading for massive debt, plummeting profit values and property values, and ridicule by media and others. I want to thank you to the councilors and the mayor for answering the call to service. This can be a tiring and thankless job, unless, of course, you take it upon yourself to enrich your financial future. Thank you for providing me a reason to teach my children about a small town government and showing them that even a small town can have a large swamp, just like Washington, D.C. I want to thank CORE for waking the citizens up and alerting us of the corrupt craziness going on. So thank you to Councilors Jaramillo and Abraham and Holly for attending the CORE meeting at the church. Interesting though, Ms. Holly, you didn't make yourself known at the meeting. If my name is being dragged through the mud, I certainly would step up and defend myself. Thank you, Mayor and Councilor Abrams, for showing your cowardice by not showing up. I guess you're only available for 2 minutes at a time here, where you don't have to sit and respond, and you can just sit here behind the counter with your holier-than-thou attitude. Why not be an accessible mayor to the constituents of this town and show up to and talk to and respond to people, answer questions and defend your actions? Or are they not defendable? Why not answer why you thought it was appropriate to run the sewer through your property? No official plan showed that. Why do you think it appropriate to force residents to pay thousands of dollars to connect to some unnecessary sewer system? How dare you try to force that on us? And at CORE, what possible reason is this happening? Who's getting rich off this? And finally, nepotism. Ordinance 1999B, Section 1, Part A, says no person shall be hired in any capacity or appointed in any capacity as a volunteer if the person is a relative of the mayor, and the penalty is you are guilty of malfeasance in office or position, and you shall be subject to dismissal or removal, plus the fines as well. So I'd like to know what you'd like to say about that.
Change my name to Bassett too.
Batcher Toon.
This is going to be short and sweet. So everyone from Mr. Abrams down to Mayor Bassett, I believe that everyone knows the definitions and what goes in the word corruption, which stands for, well, lies, deception, and just screwed up moral compasses. Your moral compasses disgust me as you try and lie to everyone in here. Please, for the sake of everyone's sanity, start telling the truth. Now, to these two lovely ladies over to my left, thank you for doing what you're doing and keep up the good work.
Karen Kaiser.
Karen Kaiser, I live here in Edgewood. I wanted to ask, and I guess I ask rhetorically because I know you don't answer, but perhaps Juan Torres would be gracious enough to answer my question during his clerk-treasurer report. But I read the council report dated November 26, 2019 that's in your packet this evening. And on page 10, it listed the legal fees, part of which Mr. Powers referred to earlier. And they jumped out at me as shocking to me for a town of 5,000 people. This report reads as if it's for the month of November. I don't know the time frame it encompasses because it doesn't tell me. But you spent almost $28,000 in legal fees, which would translate to 185 legal hours billed in a month. 2 months, I'm not sure, but that's a lot of money for a small town. What shocked me the most with all of the public speaking out against the condemnation of EPCOR is that you spent 18,000 of it, or 122 legal hours, on the condemnation of EPCOR. I've seen previous legal bills where you've spent over 20,000, so I ask, how much of the town's money have you spent thus far on what the town screams out that they don't want. But $18,000 in the month of November for legal fees regarding EPCOR is shocking, and I think it warrants explanation to the public. Thank you.
Next person is Ray Sears.
My name is Ray Seegers, local businessman here in Edgewood. And I really want to touch on this point of our 2 minutes to hear the public. The impression that you're giving when you do this is you don't want to hear from the public. It's pretty obvious. And the idea that we have a tradition of only doing this is simply not true. We have always allowed, and I've been here quite a while, since the beginning of this town, we've always allowed people to let other people take 2 minutes on their behalf. So there's a reason for that. Some people don't feel comfortable talking, but they would like to designate somebody to talk for them. Councilor Abrams, you are always for the people that want to do that type of thing, and I noticed that all of a sudden everything's changed. We want as little feedback from this public as possible. I think the policy's wrong, but it's certainly flawed in not allowing people to designate their 2 minutes so that the various subjects can be covered in detail. And what's that mean? That means some people got up here and 5 or 10 of them had things to say, and there were 5 or 10 subjects you should hear about, but there might be, out of that 5 or 10, 3 or 4 eloquent speakers. The rest are too shy, don't like to speak in public, and don't have a total handle on all the details of the subject. And if somebody wants to speak or donate their 2 minutes to get their word out, I think you really ought to want to hear that. So I think it is flawed, and it's not true that this is how we've always done it. I've sat in planning commission meetings that had a rule like this from time to time, and always they allowed somebody to designate their 2 minutes to speak to you. Don't you want to hear from us? Okay, well, that's a way to do it. So I suggest you change that policy.
Next person is Keegan Toon.
This will be really quick. So Councilor Abrams, Hawley, and Mayor Bassett, you three ought to be ashamed of yourselves. And to the people here, if you truly care about what's going on, I would advise you that these people should be removed promptly. And to Councilor Jaramillo and Councilor Abraham, thank you so much for bringing this to our attention.
Is there anybody that didn't sign up that would like to say something? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on. Next item is public meeting, 2019 Town of Edgewood Comprehensive Land Use Plan presented to the governing body by Maida Rubin from Mr. Cog, Mid-Region Council of Governments, and members of the Comprehensive Plan Committee of the Town of Edgewood. Maida?
Hello, Mayor, Council. So at the last council meeting on November 20th, members of the council requested certain edits. So I did my best to implement those edits. The 3 that I have here were in a memo in your packet. Council requested that staff include information about current wastewater services and a map of the wastewater service area that is current. So I've done that. Council requested that Mr. Cog's staff remove the mention of the PER pertaining to the water system. And then on page 69, Goal C, Objective 1, Strategy 3, Council discussed changing the proposed time frame. I have not touched that, but Council could vote on that if they choose to. And then in addition, one of our members of our committee had a few edits that she saw that she would like to propose, if that's something you'd like to entertain at this time, or if that's more appropriate in public comment.
What is it?
It was some text edits a paragraph break, a couple other things.
I let him bring it up at
Sure.
public comment on it.
I have, Mr. Mayor, may I
Yes,
make
ma'am.
some comments? Maida, I want to say thank you for the work that you did on the edits I asked for. But the map for the sewer area isn't exactly what I was looking for. I was looking for something that showed lines in the ground. Something that showed where the current sewer line has been installed, so that if people are looking to locate a business here or something, they know where that is, not just where it could be, because it could be in the middle of, somewhere that we can't afford to build a line to. So that's one of the things. The other thing is, after I started actually looking through this more completely, and then we talked about the time frames, one of the things I realized was when we talked about the time frames, it was on the 6/19 agenda that was tabled to 7/3/19 for you to collect that information from us, those emails from us, and then we were going to discuss it again on 7/3. That discussion never happened. This is the first time we're seeing that since then. So I have a concern that we tabled an item on 7/3 and then never resolved it. So that's part of, the other thing was when I was looking at that, I came across a comment, an email that really bothered me. As you know, we were giving the options of short range, 1 to 5 years, medium range, 5 to 10 years, long range, 10 to 20 years, or ongoing. And I had some other comments. I wanted high priority and never. And I was told if I couldn't stick to the key, I needed to abstain altogether. So I'm not sure if my votes were even counted. So I do have some problems with the very basis of the comp plan, the lack of input from counselors. When I was reading through this, I found several things that were mentioned in here that were never even discussed by council like I said, on this map, I would like to see the currently installed lines. I would, on page 43, there's a reference here to 80 acres of BLM parcel land that I thought, it's on the map as open space, focus area, but yet the very last paragraph says, due to the lead contamination from bullets, it has become clear that intensive remediation would be needed in order for this site to be leasable. We've never heard that at council. Also, the equestrian center, it has, come to, it says in here that lease agreement was expired. That was something else that was never brought to this council to see if we wanted. There are things in here that have never been discussed at council. Also on page 44, there's a map there that says existing and proposed trails, which is the identical map on page 48, which claims that's roads maintained by Edgewood. So I think one of these maps have to be wrong.
Would you say those page numbers again, please?
Page number 44 and 48. And then on page 47, transportation facilities and traffic flow, there's no mention of the park and ride or the blue bus, which are very important transportation modes to the town of Edgewood. I see nothing here on the page 50, the Edgewood Long Range Roadway System. There's no roads on there, so I don't know if we don't have any long-range plans or if they just didn't get on the map.
Sir, could you stay in order and not speak up?
Next, we come to, I guess next is the timeframes. I have a lot of concerns here. You have some things like on page 71, the town will study development of additional water resources. And again, they'll collaborate with private entities where appropriate in 10 to 20 years. Well, the only water we have is through private entities. So we need to collaborate with them now if we want water. Next, I have on page 73, Goal H, maintain a street network to meet the current and future transportation needs for Edgewood community. All of those are 1 to 5 years or 5 to 10 years. Everyone I have talked to, roads are their number one priority, and I think that should be an ongoing time frame. Next is provide for coordinated emergency rescue services in Edgewood. That says ongoing. However, I've been in discussion with a Dr. Miley who is trying desperately to bring to the attention of anybody who will listen that many times homes are occupied, but the Santa Fe County Dispatch doesn't know they're there. When First Choice was opened, this is his most egregious example. When First Choice was opened next to the fire station, they had an emergency that they called into Santa Fe County Dispatch, and the dispatch didn't know where they were. They could not dispatch the fire department next door to the medical center. So that needs to be worked on. Another priority is increase the town's capacity for effective code enforcement, page 75. We all know a clean and beautiful town is important, and this is another priority for citizens. I've had ex-Councilor Ring up here saying we need to clean up our town and other people. These timeframes are all 1 to 5 or 5 to 10 years away. We have 2 code enforcement or 2 planning and zoning people. That needs to be an ongoing priority in my opinion. On page 76 under housing, there's a comment that says, questionnaire respondents did not show support for large apartment complexes or affordable housing. That wording, affordable housing, needs to be removed to keep us in compliance with the fair housing laws. Those were the most glaring things that I saw. And again, you know, I looked through this more thoroughly after the last time to see, you know, 'cause maybe we've never seen this document before. And so I think we really need time to look at it, to digest it, to have public comments and see, are these the things you want? Do you want to own the water system and the sewer system, but not take care of roads and clean up properties? I think if we ask them, the answers would be no. So those are my comments.
Thank you for your comments. May I address some of those points?
Yes.
I'll do my best, and remind me if I'm forgetting anything. So typically, the sewer lines are pretty specific to put in a comprehensive plan, but if that's something the council would like me to put in, I'm happy to. Sorry, I misunderstood.
Yeah. Well, I think if we're putting lines where we're maintaining roads, I think we should put lines where we're maintaining the sewer.
Typically, that's something available and more updated at the town. So it would be out of date it would be perhaps dated information. So that's the reason typically you leave it out and have people contact the town. But however, I'm happy to put it in.
Okay.
That's why I didn't. For the timeframes, generally, however council would like to reopen that, it sounds like there's a lot of discussion on it. That's up to the council. For the reference to the BLM land with the cleanup, that's information I believe that was in a document created through the BLM partnership with the RTCA, the Rivers Trails Conservation Assistance Program. That was last year, I believe. And that was information from that document and working with them in that process.
Maybe we just need to clarify these things need to come to council for our information as well.
I wrote down equestrian center. Would you remind me your comment, please?
That one says the lease has expired and that Santa Fe County would like to renew that.
That is information I obtained from talking to the town and Santa Fe County staff. They'd been working together in discussions, I think. So that's the most current information I have.
Mayor and Council, if I may on that. So the town of Edgewood has never had a lease on the equestrian center. The equestrian center has always belonged to Santa Fe County and is open for all residents. What expired was the agreement, the maintenance agreement, and that expired in 2012 and has never been renewed. So that just means that the county is responsible for the maintenance of the facility, not the town. But it is still open and available for the community, for anyone who wants to reserve it. The reservations are just going through Santa Fe County now. That is the only change that has been made. But yeah, there was never a lease agreement on it because it's county property. And there was just a maintenance agreement that essentially expired before it was even completed.
Okay, so maybe that's dated information that needs to be removed from the comp plan.
Is that,
can do that.
it's an MOU? Is that what it was?
Mayor Council, yes, it was. I believe it was some sort of maintenance agreement. So I don't know if it was. I don't believe it was a JPA. So it might have been an MOU.
And who was doing the maintenance from 2012 till now?
The town was doing some minor maintenance to it, dumping the trash, things of that nature. And then once we discovered that we don't have an agreement to be doing this, we're not covered to be operating on county property. So we informed the county, and the county has since been doing all the maintenance and doing all the work over there.
So maybe that needs to be clarified that that's not the case.
And did the town have a meeting with them on this, and who was there?
Mayor and Council, just once again, that expired in 2012, so I'm not sure who was involved at that point in time.
Mayor,
Counselor?
did you meet with the county on that, or how did this come about?
I believe Karina looked into it and could never find any lease agreement. And I think she's spoken to somebody up there about it.
I was just trying to get to the bottom of it, because there is a rumor going around that on this one and Echo Ridge, that Councilor Hawley, you and the mayor had met with the county on those two things. So I just wanted to know if that meeting actually happened.
No, I have not met with the county on those two items. I'm glad you brought it up to get that clarified.
To clarify, yeah, just that those two things, maintenance has been stopped. Is that true? Are we maintaining Echo Ridge?
Echo Ridge is 34, right? Yeah, Echo Ridge, so I guess what we're doing out there is picking up trash or something, but we were told, like with the police, that they're not to go out there because it's federal property. They're not deputized to go on that. As far as our involvement with it, Karina's been working to secure either the fencing or whatever it is that's required to make it so that the purchase can go through, but that's sort of where it's at right now.
Okay.
So question then, Mayor, we are still anticipating purchasing that property?
As far as I know, but they do require you to get it fenced and do some of the other improvements out there before they'll go with it.
For the other comments, on page 44 and 48, that it's the same map, thank you for catching that. It's a different map that hasn't made it in there, so thank you. On the traffic flow map showing the blue bus and park and ride stops, I really like that edit. I'm happy to add those. For the long-range roadway system, would you say that one more time, please?
That was on page 50. And maybe we don't have any long-range roadway.
48.
Page,
50 in the new version.
yeah, 50 on the new version.
Long range is 50.
So this is generally produced by the Mid-Region Council of Governments, and it shows the larger roadways, the minor arterials, major collectors, minor collectors, and arterials. So that's current information from the COG.
Okay, well, I was just reading under here that when you actually read the discussion of the roads, there's something here that says figure 26 shows the roads that are maintained by the town of Edgewood. Non-town maintained roads include those in private, state, and federal ownership. The town's 2017 annexation increased the amount of facilities that the town maintains, but otherwise rarely accepts new roads for maintenance. What is figure 26? I didn't see that anywhere.
It's page 48.
Okay.
That's
Oh,
the
that's the wrong
duplicate.
map. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And then I believe your other comments were on the timeframes, and
Yeah,
I'll leave that
and
up to
we'll get
council.
that. Okay.
And then the affordable housing.
Yeah, affordable housing. Those words need to come out if we ever hope to get federal funding.
I wonder what the percentage was on that, because I do know that some of the public does support having a variety of housing options.
That was what was approved in the goals and objectives by resolution. On page,
Well, it's not a goal or objective, it's at the top of page 76. It's, now I'm a little worried about this referring to the questionnaire, because last time it was taken completely out of context as support for something that didn't really exist, as in the takeover of EPCOR. So when I see that it's talking about the questionnaire, I'm just a little skeptical, I guess. Do you know what the percentages were that, because it says respondents did not show support. Does that mean 100% or?
let me find it for you one moment. I have it
Okay.
with me.
As I do know, there's a lot of people out here who would like somewhere for their children to be able to live, or, young families to come and live.
New graduates.
So under Goal O, support a variety of housing and residential opportunity for Edgewood residents. That's how it had been addressed through objectives 1 through 3. And let me try and find that for you.
Okay.
Mayor, can I suggest something?
Sure.
I think it would really be a good idea if we would go ahead and put the survey questions in that document that you had made as an appendix in here, so people can go back and see what the survey questions were and how people reacted to them.
Is it currently on the town website?
It
It's
is.
a document we'd done a long time ago to kind of compile the information from the 432, I believe, surveys. that
Then I
we
think
collected.
we'd have a reference point to go to.
Yeah.
You think? I think it's a good
I
idea.
think that would be a good idea.
Yeah, okay.
Let me also write that down.
So we're going to add an Appendix D then?
Yes.
Oh, well, there was one other thing, I'm sorry, I'm looking at my notes now to make sure I covered everything. I'm on page 39. When it talks about the wastewater thing, it says something about that, the repairs, let me see, let me look at page 39. Anyway, it fails to mention a PER that was done, started in 2015, accepted in 2016. That's actually where we started looking at needed repairs for our wastewater plant. So it was much earlier than this time frame.
That's a good catch.
There was an asset management plan that was done in 2015, and then that indicated that we needed to do the PER, which was done in 2016 instead of 2017.
There was an asset management plan in 2015, and then in 2016, a
PER.
PER.
And that's on the same page where the map is.
If there's language you'd like me to add, council, let me know. I'm happy to edit it.
How is all of the work that was done by the public on Section 16 back in, what was it, 2014, 15? How is that reflected here in the comp plan?
The 2016 section is mainly from the work done in these current public meetings through this process that I was a part of in the last 2 years, from the many members of the public expressing the desire for various services and amenities in a town square, and it kept coming back, and through these public meeting discussions, the solution that kept coming up from the public was Section 16 is a natural place to kind of host a town center of some sort, which would necessitate revisiting the Section 16 master plan. So that's kind of what was included in this process. We understand that much of the land isn't owned by Edgewood, and that has its limitations, but the existing plan no longer truly reflects the conditions on the ground. A lot has changed. The town offices are here, for example, so that's how it was looked at. Does that answer your question?
Well, I do know that a lot of time and effort and public input went into that process. And so I just wanted to make sure that, like I was mentioning at the last meeting, that this comprehensive plan is our vision, for Edgewood, for the long term and short term. But that should be a part of it, a critical part of this. Not just as a separate master plan by itself, but that it really should be reflected in here because of all of that public and work that everybody did. And so I'm asking how it's reflected in here, or if it's not, can we add it?
So the work that was done to create that master plan, the goal that refers to updating the master plan, it's not erase and expunge and start from scratch. It's to update it for current conditions, current desires. Whether that's an invasive thing or not is completely a separate process from this.
So, I mean, we talk about the different parks and we talk about transit and all the different things, so shouldn't we have a section?
Look on page 58, Counselor.
Okay. And so does this go into our goals as well?
I believe it is a goal to revisit the Section 16 master plan that council had adopted by resolution.
Just to comment, what might be nice now in this section by section, page 58, is something showing a picture of the town offices and stuff here, the library? I mean, better than this rusty old bridge.
There is a picture of the town offices, if you'd like that bigger or in a different place.
Where is it?
It is in Community Amenities and Services, I believe. Let me find the page.
Maybe near section 16.
Page
too.
33.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, okay, I see it.
So there's these are smaller pictures, but the Santa Fe County Fire Department is in here, town offices and library, and municipal court and animal control.
Okay. And now the First Choice building is there.
And I don't think I'd mentioned it before, but we were actually lucky enough to get a lot of photo submissions for this plan. So most of the photos in the plan were donated, or they allowed us to use them. So it's from the community of Edgewood. That was the hope.
One of the things that I think Counselor Abraham mentioned earlier was about the sewer service. Oh, you were asking for a picture of what's actually in the ground, right?
Yes.
My concern with what was added in here is that it's talking about the residential service area, but the problem is that I don't think that reflects what the town wants. I think that the town wants the sewer to be along the commercial corridors, but not necessarily to go into the residential areas. And so now all of a sudden we have this map in here of a sewer service area, but that's not what people want.
So there is a current sewer plant area, so that's what's shown here. And I agree that wasn't expressed as a desire from the public that we heard about residential hookups, and so that's not reflected in the goals and objectives. It is about commercial service for the sewer.
I'm thinking that maybe it's better to have the picture of and references to what's in the ground for commercial purposes, and not focus on that map that's a service area that's so big, really in the poorest part of our town. And people have made it very clear that they don't want that, so that's why we had to make some changes to the ordinance. But I feel like if we leave that service area map in there that really is not relevant right now, and not even a goal of what we're moving toward, that it's not reflective of what's really happening.
Well, Counselor, it is the wastewater service area. I think it'd be easy enough to show the areas where the lines run right now. It is the wastewater service area.
Mr. Mayor, could I maybe make this suggestion that the wastewater system was expected to serve commercial and residential customers at some point? Initially, commercial and eventually residential customers?
Mm-hmm.
And my other concern was just again about the nepotism and the tainted process that this went through. Did you guys have a chance to talk about how to remedy that?
So this kind of came up after this was already at public hearings for the whole plan, to my knowledge, and I just want to express that we have worked very hard to try to make this a very open and inclusive process, broadcast what we were doing, try to get inclusion and involvement, try to get participation at our public meetings. At no point was the discussion centered on we should do something that impacts the mayor's property specifically. It was very, very, very general to the point of the whole comp plan. So I didn't feel that that was not something that came up or was noticed. Cheryl was a very great participant in the process. If that's something that needs to be addressed by council.
I don't think it does, because had lots of meetings in here with the public. She was there, I was at some of those meetings. I didn't direct anybody to do anything. I think it's a non-issue relating to this comp plan. It has nothing to do with it. There was a lot of people in those meetings, lots of points of view, and I think you've done a fine job here of collecting most of what they said and reflecting it in the plan you've got here.
Did anyone else have any comments about things that they noticed in the comp plan or concerns they had?
How would you like to handle this, Maida?
Well, the contract with the COG ends in January.
Right.
I'm happy to make any edits that the council wants me to make. I understand there's a lot of discussion, and if there needs to be further discussion, that's up to you all.
Yeah.
So how would you like to proceed?
Have you got enough here tonight to maybe go back and tweak it with these changes here?
I'd like
Get the right
to
map in?
verbally confirm all of the changes you would like me to make, and then
Okay.
I'm happy to make them.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
may we hear from the public before she concludes her list?
And I know there will be a public input on this, so maybe the discussion, one option for the council is to approve the plan with whatever conditions you'd like for the edits. So those edits can be made post-approval,
Yeah.
but however you'd like to proceed.
Okay. So if you're done, we do have public comments on it, so let's listen to them and see what they've got.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Maida.
Thank you.
Well, that next item would be public comment on the comprehensive land use plan. Anybody want to come up? Mr. McGill?
Tom McGill, 12 Buck Road. I'd like to say some of my observations about what went on during the comprehensive plan and why some of these problems might have arisen. I filled out the survey, I went to the meetings, and this is an interesting thing because a lot of the civilians, the community people who weren't part of planning and zoning are actually here. And they're here, and you know these people, and you can ask them what their perceptions are. My perceptions are, I'll give you two examples. With respect to high-density housing and affordable housing, there was clearly a preconceived idea before they ever went in there. So whenever the subject came up, people, including me, would say, what about old people and young people? And then they would say, oh, yes, we need to do old people and young people. And the next thing you know, it's gone again. And that happened 3 times, and with me personally. The second thing was, we were there, I was there because I had interest, I was curious about things. When Ms. Rubin would bring up, she made a statement I thought was fairly volatile about, we don't own the water, so we can't do this. And I said, well, that's an important issue. Let's talk about that. And she, no, we don't do that. We're not going to talk about that. And that was, so we didn't talk about the things that I wanted to talk about. We talked about, should we, we cheerfully joined in or constructively offered ideas about GED for kids and education and all those sorts of things. But I felt the things that this group of actual citizens, which I think represents a real high percentage of actual civilian, I'll call them citizens there, they can speak for themselves, but I don't think we were listened to very much at all. I argued about Section 16. They told me it didn't exist. I mean, they didn't say we don't. I said, I have the document. I do have the document, and I didn't have it with me, but they would say, well, that doesn't exist. So, I felt a little frustrated and about several issues that I wanted to talk about, road quality and so on, and that just wasn't important. And they already knew what they wanted when they came in, and they already had their, do you want a big road or a middle-sized road? There was no option for no road or poor roads. So thank you very much. Sorry.
Mayor and councilors, I think I have around 40 resident engagement. I sat through all the meetings on the comp plan. I also read the survey, every single page, and every single comment at the end, which went on for several pages. And the overwhelming sentiment was preserve our atmosphere. And the economic fact of having affordable housing, if we don't attract businesses who create jobs, people can't afford to live here, even if the housing is affordable. They can't afford to commute to Albuquerque. We've got to run this town to be business friendly. We're not doing that now. People hear, oh, there's something going on with water. No business wants to even come here if there's something going on with water. So it's, we need to change the whole, if we really want a diverse population and families, we have to have a lot of diverse businesses first. And that's my comment.
Mayor and Council, my name is Brad Hill. I'm an Edgewood resident, and I'm a former affordable housing professional. I just want to comment on the affordable housing comment. There isn't a definition of affordable housing, and HUD has what's called a 203B limit, and so I'm going to tell you what that is for Santa Fe County. So if your house is worth less than this 203B limit, it is considered affordable. So I just want to put that number out there. It is $484,350. So if your house is worth less than that, you probably need to get out. So I just want to make that comment. And you're absolutely correct about the fair housing issue. If you put language to that effect, not only will you not attract federal funds, but you could attract a lawsuit. Thank you.
Yeah.
From what I've heard so far, I don't think this plan's ready to be put together. I also think there ought to be something in there about a public vote on the water and a public vote on the sewer to decide where it goes and to whom has to deal with it. And I don't think that's unreasonable. It seems like most of the community doesn't want either. That's just my comment. I don't think it's, and we certainly don't need to sue EPCOR. You guys don't have the money, I'm sorry, but they're PRC regulated. I'd like to read the questionnaire, maybe send out another questionnaire that says, should the city go into $14 million in debt to try to condemn something that we're getting for free, basically?
Anybody else? Linda?
Sorry, Linda. My name is Jerry Powers, and I attended some of those meetings. I had a very similar experience to what Mr. McGill was talking about. These plans are, by their own definition, a guiding document for future development and growth and the character of the town. If they're not coming up from the grassroots and they're coming top down or being influenced in some way in a hierarchical manner, then it's not really what it's supposed to be, which is what the town wants in terms of character and goals. I noticed in tonight's packet, there's a November 12th, 2019 copy of the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting minutes. On page 6 of 7 of that, there's a motion by Commissioner Huppertz, which has been, she's been the subject of the problem with the nepotism by her appointment, and then everybody voted. So by virtue of the law, if there's a violation of the nepotism ordinance, all of this could be undone. In fact, all the planning and zoning work that's happened under that P&Z commissioner could be undone legally and be nullified. So that's the fruit of the poison tree is also poison, is the principle. And I've been attacked. I've been called out by some of the staff members at different times about we've worked so hard on all this. We worked 9 months. We locked ourselves in a room for 9 months. If I locked myself in a room with several people here and wrote a manual about brain surgery, it wouldn't be a very good one because I don't know anything about it. The problem here is that if you cook a meal and you spend a lot of time on it and it's got tainted or spoiled ingredients, we shouldn't be convinced by staff or anybody else to try to swallow it just because they worked hard on it. I know this plan, there was a lot of activity around it, but it's a flawed process because of the nepotism problem, number one, but also because of some of the things that made it into the plan. It's obvious that it was steered and it was tainted. The PER reference that I now understand has been taken out. The fact that it could even make it in there, when it was never a discussion item in any of the meetings that I attended. There was a survey, but it was a generic question about should we have our own water company or should we start a water company, I think is the way it was worded. So that was a deceptive question if what you're really trying to get at is approval to condemn EPCOR. And you could go out for a ballot initiative. You could go out to the public. I mean, we've heard overwhelming voices about not wanting to put the town in debt for something that's already functioning. If it's not broke, don't fix it. So with regard to some of the other problems with the plan not being bottom up, is now we've got a sewer service area in here, wastewater service area, which obviously existed before the plan was put together. But it's showing the residential sewer. It's going into residential areas, and it's going into some of the neighborhoods that the ladies were talking about tonight, not wanting it, west of 344. It also does not extend out to Section 16, which was supposed to be a priority for commercial development, administrative development, recreational development for the town. So those were some of the priorities that I heard in the meetings that I went to that, in fact, is going the opposite direction. It's 180 degrees away from that. The sewer's going into residential neighborhoods. It's costing millions of dollars. One of the items on Mayor Bassett's political platform was to keep it along I-40, where the sewer already exists. So we have a right to get what we bargained for when we vote. And it seems to be a complete departure from that. This map for the future is flawed because of the process itself, as well as the fact that it didn't come from the bottom up. It was steered. So I would like to see a real process, a real public process where it comes from the grassroots. When somebody asks, as Mr. McGill did, what about this or what about that, that it makes it into the document. It gets a consensus from the people that are in the planning area, and not just the ones that the planners or the P&Z want to have the public weigh in on. Those are my comments. Thank you.
Linda?
Some of my comments are going to seem pretty mundane because they're just editorial fixes. Regarding the equestrian center, I'm not certain, based on the comments that were made earlier, if this is correct, but the paragraph on page 43 regarding the equestrian center read as though it was missing the word Edgewood, and turning the line, Edgewood hopes to enter back into an agreement. If that was not the intent, then that paragraph probably needs to be reworked anyway. On page 46, just a clarification, end of trail is listed under SAS as occurring in April. It actually occurs in June each year. On page 49, there's a missing paragraph break between paragraphs 2 and 3. On page 39, there are 2 paragraphs relating to work to correct problems at the wastewater treatment plant. They're back-to-back paragraphs. And let's see, page 39. It refers to bottom of the first. It says that that work was undertaken to correct problems that had plagued the plant since its opening in 2010. And then in the very next paragraph, it refers to in 2018, the town took over operation of the wastewater plant, and a number of problems that had plagued the plant since it went online in 2010 have been addressed and corrected. So it's a little unclear if those are different problems that were being addressed and corrected, or if somehow we've got dates mixed up. But if it is different problems, we should probably clarify what work was done, at what time, and for what purpose, so there's a clear understanding. As a layperson, I can't determine that from these 2 paragraphs. Let's see. On page 71, regarding water, I believe it's goal C on strategy. At the last meeting, it had come up, a request, I believe, to make that, and it came up earlier tonight, as far as the town collaborating with private entities where appropriate. It's still listed as 10 to 20 years. At the last meeting, it was suggested that it should be an ongoing item, and I just wanted to make sure if that's the case, that is corrected. And on page 73, goal G refers to revisiting the conceptual plan for section 16. It's listed as a goal in a time frame of 5 to 10 years. In actuality, because there's such an emphasis and interest on section 16, it would be, in my opinion, more appropriate for that to be a 1 to 5 year goal so that it could be looked at sooner, so that any opportunities that come our way are already planned for, and we have an idea of what we want to do and we can jump on them, as opposed to having to say, well, we're not really ready to talk about that yet, when there's such interest in it. Where the word affordable housing is in the plan, let me back up and just say, I was on the steering committee, so I sat in on all of these meetings and all of the public meetings as well, which is why I have such an interest in this. During that time, I brought up the mention of the word affordable housing shouldn't be in there for the reasons that Councilor Abraham mentioned. But I suggested that perhaps a more appropriate word would be attainable, something that allows our young families or older people to still be able to afford in the town, live in the town of Edgewood, even if they can't afford a $485,000 house. Thank you for that number, Mayor Hill. And because there is a need, there is a desire for families who have a younger adult children that want to come back to the community to be able to do so. We did hear that quite a bit.
Ms. Burke, I have a question then, because this says questionnaire respondents did not show support for that. So you're saying that there was support for attainable housing?
I think there was a general consensus that people wanted housing that was within reach, but not necessarily what might be categorized as, or people's impression of what affordable housing might be. And that was my rationale for not using that term, because many times people associate that with something very negative, even though it's not intended to be negative. And that we not go down a path where people misinterpret what the goal actually is. And so I think that's why there was not support for that item, as opposed to what we are hearing in public meetings of people saying, yes, we do need a way for our young people to come back, or for our seniors to stay in the community who want to give up their larger homes. It's the specific terminology that I think people were afraid of. So I did also want to mention, since I have been a part of this process, and I apparently am the only steering committee person that's here tonight, that as a community, we are very fortunate to have had the help of COG, specifically Maida and Sandy. They've put a lot of time in. Maida practically lives here on some of these nights when we've been working late on this. She's worked hard. She's listened carefully. And I think that she's tried to provide good resources and input to give us some relevance to look at this process from an outside perspective as well. And I've been very encouraged that this community has such a strong interest in this plan, that there has been a lot of input, there's been some participation, although it may not have been perfect, there has been, and I really encourage the council to continue to listen to what the public is saying as we're finalizing the process. And from a business perspective, I would say if our contract expires in January, but we need a little bit more time to get it right, get a little more time and get it right, because we have to work from this document for years to come. It's not something to hurry just because we might need an extra 2 to 4 weeks to get something done that we'll really be happy with and proud of and can work with for years, as opposed to something that's less than what the community might hope for. So that's my input.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Karen Kaiser. I wanted to say that I attempted to participate in the comp plan meetings, and I felt decidedly unwelcome. And I have a really rich background, specifically in land use planning, both in life experience and graduate level education. So I was kind of surprised, but from the moment I tried to attend, I would have to say I was 100% impressed. Is your name Maida? With the professional from Mr. Cog. I think she did an excellent job, and I think the way she deals with the tensions in our town is just the utmost level of professionalism. It did shock me as someone that was a planning and zoning member in a very large community for a decade. In that position, I already had a lot of input over what went on in my city of 100,000 people. I would not then have been made the steering committee for the comp plan. Your steering committee, the only neutral person on it was Linda Burke. It was planning and zoning. They already serve a really influential role in our town. They were pretty much the only people in the room, were town staff and planning and zoning. And the final meeting I attended, when I inadvertently offended Carla Salazar, was because your cousin Cheryl Hubbards kept shouting out, "But we don't own the water company." And at one point we were talking about collecting groundwater, which I thought came from the sky in rain, and Carla injected, "But we don't own the water company." And the statement that Mr. Powers made, that I'm not talking about the Mr. Cog professional. I think she's a A+ professional. I'd hire her again. But the group, the clique, if you will, that runs this town, that got together to make this comp plan that the other 5,000 of us get to live with, had decided what they wanted and made the process get the results. And to me, that's how this town is run. I don't understand it, I don't agree with it, and I don't feel heard. But I went and apologized to Carla. I didn't mean to insult her. I like her and respect her, but you don't need to own the water company to collect rainwater. I felt, Mayor, perhaps they had been told to get these points in, get the point in that we need to own the water company. Then when I see it end up in the document, my suspicions go haywire. So I don't know what this process cost us, but I would imagine it's expensive. I'd actually like to know, what does the town pay for this comp plan? But I agree with the gentleman that said it's not ready. And I think it had limited public input. It had input from your town staff that are certainly not going to disagree with you because you fired them, and your planning and zoning council, who, if they're not related to you, they are all appointed by you. So they are beholden to you. And I do not feel that the rest of us that aren't your relatives or your appointees were fairly heard. Mr. Seeger brought up an idea. We've got an uneducated population. You've got a bunch of old people like me and my friends that have too much education and too much time. We would donate our time to teach kids for free, to get a GED so they got half a chance at life. That didn't make it into the plan. Mr. Seegers wasn't even treated with respect. We were like the interlopers that came into the meeting. I don't know why you treat us this way, but if we could all just work to the same goal, you ignore a lot of valuable resources that are willing to serve this town. And I keep coming back, even though now I can't get a return phone call from Juan Torres. Tanya won't speak to me because I accidentally found out that you appointed your cousin. I didn't do it, you did it. I mean, I don't think I have anything to apologize for, but this comp plan isn't ready, and it's certainly not Maida's fault. There was an input of a 1% inside circle club, and that's not what we should plan our next decade off of, because God willing, we're not going to behave like that 10 years going forward. Thank you.
Well, I can address that. I mean, you've clearly got a lot of gripes with people here, but nothing was run down from top down. This was set up, the public came in, they gave their comments, they had the big boards up, they would write down the comments, Maida would go home, compile them together, just like they did in 2008. Most of this plan, if you look at it, follows the 2008 one. It's updated. The same stuff they talked about, economic development, housing, in that plan is what's in this plan. We didn't reinvent the wheel. I think staff did a great job with it. They've worked hard on it. They took a lot of input. The meetings were here. I don't know where you were. I didn't go to all of them, but the ones I went to seemed like they were well attended. Nobody got in any fights or anything over it. I thought everybody was pretty well represented and heard. And that's what's come out in the plan. Now, I realize that since, you know, we had the meeting up at Legacy, now it's an effort's underway now to try to discredit everything that comes along. Yeah, I think it is about that, because it's turned up since that meeting. Everything now is, well, this is bad, that's bad. Nothing's bad. No, they had meetings on this. The public was filled up this room in here. Public was well represented.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
I believe we were talking about the comp plan. I would really appreciate
other
us
comments?
focusing on that. Thank you.
Mr. Seegers.
Ray Seegers, local business owner. And I too have a background in urban planning, graduate work, and came to New Mexico in the midst of all that, and have been very active in a variety of plans, both Santa Fe County, City of Albuquerque, Bernalillo County, areas I work and have an interest. But specific to the plan here, I kind of agree with the feeling I had was similar to what this lady talked about. I mean, I went to these meetings, attended quite a few, and not all, okay? But I felt an undercurrent of being guided and pushed as I sat down and made comments, and members of the Planning Commission sitting at each table seemed to have a common agenda. But, let's get back to the specifics of the plan. Let's go to page 38. I think there's some very poor language there. And it's under water supply. Everybody looking? Okay. In the second column, we spell out, and this is almost like a pitch for, making one water system look good and one water system look bad, because it quotes certain statistics. And then with the next water company, it quotes wrong, incorrect statistics, and it doesn't use the same criteria as it goes through it. And what it says is, that Entranosa serves about 8,500 people across X amount of square miles, and it says they have approximately 3,800 metered connections. You go down a little further, and it talks about another water company, EPCOR, and it says it provides 1,960 residential and commercial customers in the Edgewood area. Well, that might be the figure for the town limits of Edgewood, but I'm sure that what you're talking about up here in Bernalillo County is what we consider the Edgewood area, and Santa Fe County, and we certainly should be considering what EPCOR has, and it has about 3,000 people, not 1,950, okay? And it's almost like, why do we express it in one manner in the top paragraph and in a very misleading manner in the second paragraph? So I think it would pay to clean that up and use the same statistics for each system, so somebody looking at this to evaluate it isn't led, but gets the same numbers each time. I won't belabor wastewater too much, other than my opinion is that, making a wastewater service area in an area that's predominantly developed, not a lot of land in there to be developed, but there is some commercial land, everybody knows some mayors. There's some other pieces of commercial land along 344, but the residential areas that are predominant here are fully developed. And that's a water service area. People live there already, live on 1 acre tracts. It's our second densest area in Edgewood. So why are we even calling that our service area? Because those people already have their sewer taken care of. And you also have a state law that requires every time you sell a property with a septic tank to get a new certification on that septic tank. So I think it's I think service area is in a ridiculous place. And it's taking, like I say, fully developed land that people already live, and they don't need sewer, and they got their sewer taken care of. And the state takes care of those kind of problems. Open space is something near and dear to my heart. And I was a little surprised. I got a call from Santa Fe County. And I just know a lot of people up there, and I've worked with the Parks and Recreation, well, the open space people, they call them in Santa Fe County. And what I heard was a rumor about not going ahead with the Equine Center and not continuing to maintain it and not entering into an agreement. And I was told by a member of their staff, this is firsthand information, okay? This is a higher level member of their staff. But they heard from the people in Edgewood, and that basically are somehow, our Parks and Recreation type people or planning and zoning people, and that they were really nasty, and they said, we're not going to enter into any more agreements with Santa Fe County on that equine park. And they were horrified. The guy just kind of told me, so I was really shocked. They were just nasty about it. That's what went to Santa Fe. That's what their open space people here. And we paid for this thing. This equestrian center is paid for by we taxpayers, both in Santa Fe County and our tax dollars,
Who did you talk to in Santa Fe?
I'm not going to tell you. I talked to somebody in the open space department that is upper level. Okay, I'm not a whistleblower, but I'm telling you the facts, okay? And I have a meeting with them, and maybe we should come talk to you about that someday. The two of us, or you hear from them, and I'll disclose that after I've had that meeting. And the reason is, they said, we don't even have a way to take care of that. We don't have anybody down here. It's going to be freezing tonight. There's water out there. So I rode by to see if the water didn't freeze. And I said, well, if a town takes that attitude, and this guy had no reason to lie to me, the town took that attitude. But he said, we got to have something. I said, well, maybe my local equine community or our clubs or our various clubs could pitch a hand in looking after it. We'd be glad to look at that. But I was shocked and horrified that somebody of authority from this town gave that impression to those people that manage that open space. You need to know what's really going on in your town. On the idea of the three areas that we talk about, the Section 34, Section 32, and the one area that we find obnoxious to us, because there's, people have been shooting there for 100 years, because it's BLM land, you're allowed to do that out there. And I've talked to people, I think, Councilor Abrams, you said you've been out there shooting and knew all about it. Or
Been out there, haven't been shooting
yeah,
there.
okay. But it happens. But that little piece has a key element to it. And you need to know this, and I hope your Parks and Recreation people know this, because they're usually a focal point. We've found this out in Parks and Rec. There is a road. It's called Lost Canyon Road. It comes up through Torrance County, and it goes through, and then it jumps into that little 80-acre piece of land that we were looking at. Well, we don't need to get involved necessarily with remediating whatever they've got there. They haven't hurt anybody in 100 years, I guess, but it's still a mess from time to time. People are not real respectful when they shoot there. But it's a little tiny piece of the 80 acres, a little tiny piece. But what they do have is the right-of-way, okay? They've got a right-of-way through there that hooks up with Lost Canyon Road. So what I suggest before we write this off, that we study it a little, because we had that right-of-way, we've got a way into Section 32. Because in that land, not where the shootings takes place, that takes place on 5 acres roughly, okay, out of this 80 acres. But the road that you get to the bottom of Section 32, that right-of-way comes up and then goes into Section 32. We ride it, we go that way. I know what I'm talking about. So don't totally write off that as a project, because if we just had a 40-acre tract that has no shooting done on it as part of this 80, and part of this 80, there's only 5 acres that everybody shoots on. So don't overlook seeking a right-of-way through there. Don't just trash the idea of we're never going to look at that because it's got a little piece of hazardous waste. It's also got your perfect access to that area. That's all I'm going to bore you with tonight, okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, Council. Sorry about that. I have a couple of questions concerning the COG. First of all, if the contract with COG is going to be over in January, what are the issues or plans to continue with this document? Who's going to take over the document and administrate it? Who's going to keep it up to date? That's only one question. The other question that I have is, this is a working document, and how does it reflect to the master plan with the town itself? Is it together? Is it something entirely different?
It's a comp plan.
I understand what they are.
Yeah.
I mean, I've done these many times in the Board of Education with Audrey, and I've done this many times working with P&Z for Santa Fe County. I mean, I understand how this is. That's why I'm asking these questions. It seems to me that the process is a good process. It's just the administration of it is, I can't follow that with what I'm hearing tonight. And if I can't follow that, and I'm used to it, that's why part of this problem is going on, is that it's just a lack of communication. It really is. It doesn't have to do with, COG would have never been created had we felt that we were being told the truth, not half truth, the whole truth. And that is a big part of the communication. And you've got to let people talk when they want to talk. You just have to do that. When I sit back there as either the members or as president of the board, just as the mayor is, this is his meeting. You know, I understand how this all works. You can't, in my opinion, you can't discredit the community by only giving them so much time. You're there for an elected service from us. You're there to serve us. And I say us because I'm now in the town of Edgewood. If I wasn't in the town of Edgewood, I wouldn't be saying us. I would be saying them.
And so back to the comp plan, your question?
That is part of the comp plan, the comprehensive plan.
Yeah.
It's our plan. And I apologize for not attending any meetings. I didn't think it was going to be such an issue. I assumed, and you know what happens when you assume, that this plan would be into the master plan, which I don't even know what the town has as a master plan.
Well, I don't know that the town has a master plan. It has several master plans within it, but.
Well, see,
that's
that's the issue. You should have one master plan with appendix in it.
You need a comp plan.
You need you need all kinds of plans in there. It's a working document, Mayor.
Right.
And in that working document, it comes up every day. That's what these people work with, every day. That's their guideline. We, community, you, governing body, works with that every day. Things change, just like life. It's a living document. It changes. Just keep us informed and let us know. I have another question about EBCOR. It was a great statistic that just came up a while ago, and it said that EBCOR had 1,900 hookups. Was that figure based on when the checkerboard was in the town or out of the town? Remember you guys, through a ruling from the courts, then everybody got forced into the town, including myself. So were those hookups counted at that time when we were all in or not?
Well, I would guess since this was done in 18 and 19 and the annexation went through in 17, that, yeah, they would have been in.
Okay, well. So the annexation only brought in how many?
I don't know. Off the top of my head, I don't know how many came in on all that checkerboard stuff.
On page 16, there's a comment about the annexation, the population from 2010 to 2017. So you might find your answers there. It says Edgewood Annex is 2,210 people, but the town of Edgewood, so is now 6,102 people. So I'm assuming 2,210 came in 2017. It's on page 16.
Well, is it 2,200 or 210?
No, 2,210.
Then the numbers
Says
just don't add up.
Just over 2,000 people.
They just don't add up.
Mr. Mayor, may I interject?
Sure.
On page 38, under water supply in this comp plan, it does reference the number of customers in the Edgewood area was from the EBCOR website, and it gives the web address. So that's where the information came from their website.
But Mr. Mayor, I have concerns with that. We talk about this being a general document, but yet then there's some very specific information in there when it seems to be convenient. I don't know that any of that information is relevant to what we're going to do in 10 years.
So here's another issue that that came up is, in my mind, is we left the stakeholders out of the process.
How so?
The water company wasn't involved in providing information. It came out of the website. It came out of a website. Maybe their website's not updated, like like the town is not always updated. See, so those are things that I am concerned about, is that this town has such a future. And frankly, I'm proud to be in it. I've been here for a long time. I'm born and raised from this place.
But you came from Moriarty.
Moriarty's just up the road, but where did you go to school?
Same place you did.
Exactly. Moriarty was a town before Edgewood was. We all helped raise our community, the East Mountain. And Mr. Bassett, you were one of them, just like I was. And I'm proud of it. And I could be very proud of this if we just did a little bit more changes in the communication side. For an example, I just picked up on that just by listening to the community. That should have been an easy one, I would think. It was easy for me because that's what I do. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. We'll stop there on the public comment on comprehensive land use and go on to matters from the counselors.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Before we do so, I think Maida wanted to review what edits we had.
Oh, there's Maida.
Yeah, Maida wanted to review what edits we had discussed earlier and after the discussion to clarify.
If you'd like to do it now or under the action item, either way. But if there's anything you'd like me to do, I'd want some clarification on it.
What's your preference, counsel?
Well, we can move on and do it under action if you'd like.
Okay.
That'd be my preference.
Hold up on it then, Maida. Okay, next item is matters from the counselors. Counselor Jaramillo.
Thank you. I just want to again thank the public for coming out this evening and all of your comments. I really do value them. And I'm grateful that you took time out of your evening to be here and to give your input to us. And the comp plan process, I think, is a very important one, that we know what you want and for the future of the town. So thank you again. Mayor, I did want to respond to a couple of things from your comments at the last meeting. I'm not going to go into too much detail here, but just to say, you know, I feel like the biggest issue I have with the church and Maine vote that happened, it was just the non-disclosure part of it, going through the private land field. And that, as far as I know, we don't have the easement for that. And so my question is that maybe you can answer, does the town own that line, or does it, just with a temporary construction easement, then go to the developer or the landowners that now that line is in? And so that's of concern to me, that that easement was not donated. I don't know too much about it. Maybe it's right away, I don't know. But what I do know is that that was not disclosed. And even though there may have been applicants earlier, that does not mean that it needed to run through private land, because that's a violation of anti-donation clause of the state constitution of New Mexico. So I can't imagine anyone recommending that. And that's a really, really big issue here. As far as you did bring up about, you know, requests to be, you know, things to be put on the agenda, et cetera. well, I have requested many times Resolution 2004-07 on how to get things onto the agenda itself to be brought forward. In the last meeting, I did request that we clarify the wording on the ICIP 344 project, because my understanding during that vote was that it was to serve a line going up 344 to section 16, which is important for a commercial corridor, but that it was not going to be residential sewer. However, all the paperwork, from what I'm understanding, and everything documented, is saying that it's the 344 project that was designed to go into Ridgewood. So we just really need to clarify that language, and I would like to see that brought back. As far as you gave sort of a half-truth of your own, Mayor, about me not responding on the capital assets request. Actually, I did talk to you that it was a complicated issue. There were many parts to what I was saying with the capital assets, and so one of them was a resolution to certify the capital asset listing at the end of the year. One, of course, was the policy itself, which I've been trying to work with Juan on. I know he wanted to do them together, and eventually we did get the capital assets policy and had some discussion on that. But my most pressing concern at the time was a resolution on the donation of land to the town. And I did bring examples of that forward. And just my concern that if there was a donation of an easement or any land at all, that we should have some process for that, for approval. And so it was much more complex than what you actually presented at the last meeting. But that is something that I've been working on with you all. Then lastly, I just wanted to again express that I think we need to have public hearings on EPCOR sooner rather than later. I know you keep saying it's not ready, but now again, we have whatever it is, $28,000 or $18,000 of legal fees regarding EPCOR, and I'm just really concerned that we're going to keep accruing work on that and payments to professionals or whoever and legal counsel to work on this, and taking the staff's time to work on this. And really, we just need to stop spending money on it if it's not something that the public wants.
Councilor Abraham?
I want to apologize first to Mr. Torres. I talked about getting an agenda with old business and new business, and I failed to send you an example of that until late this afternoon. So when you get there tomorrow, you should see an example of another board that I'm on that talks about unfinished business or old business or, something like that. And the reason that is so important is because, looking through this, I realized we tabled something to the 7-3 council meeting and then never brought it up again. And I think it would help avoid things like that. The other thing is, I ask a lot of questions and I hear, I'll get back with you, I'll get you that information, and it seems to never come. Last time I asked you about the wastewater treatment plant sampling. Is that being done accordance with our ordinance? And you said you would get back with me, and I haven't heard. So do you have an answer about that?
Mayor, Council, I believe that was the mayor that said he would get back with you, but yes, the sampling is being done. It is being done annually. We're actually scheduled hopefully to move forward again either late this month or early next month for the next round of sampling. But the sampling is being done and has been done since we were made aware that that was a requirement of the ordinance passed in 2015.
Okay, thank you. Next, my last question was, how much is town hall listed for? And I never...
That was $210,000.
Okay, thank you. And then lastly, I had asked about to have us get prices on either headsets or lapel microphones. I keep hearing complaints from the public that unless I'm eating my microphone, they can't hear me. So just, is there any update on that?
No, I don't have anything.
Is it something that will be looked into?
I don't know. Council, what do you think? Well, we can come back
I
to
do,
it.
yeah, probably.
Okay. The next stuff is new business that I wanted to talk about. Mr. Mayor, last meeting, you talked about the wastewater line going the way it did because several individuals had been requesting wastewater service on the ICIP meeting since 2013.
Even before that.
Even before that. So now that the wastewater line is there, how many of them have applied to hook up?
Haven't sent out them letters yet, but I've had indications from several of them.
Okay, can you bring that forth when we,
It's just anecdotal,
okay.
talking to them.
Have we hooked up the Edgewood Police Department and Community Center?
Have not.
Are we going to?
Still in the plans.
Okay. Since the letter hasn't gone out, I guess we don't know how many exemptions have been applied for. And since no one's applied, I guess no one's, none have been issued, correct?
Be about right.
Okay. The last thing is, I know we keep talking about the water PER, and I was listening to some old audios, and I happened to come across one that Rita Loy made comments about when we were talking about the wastewater PER and whether we should accept it, what does it really mean, it's a confusing document, and she recommended, and you agreed, that it was a good idea to get a peer review of the PER, possibly from the Rural Water Company. So I was just going to ask if maybe that would be something that we could have them look at our PER and then come to us to help us understand this document as to the recommendations being given, the costs associated with it, all that kind of stuff. And so I just wanted to put that out there as an idea to actually be able to resolve the PER that we've paid for and never addressed. And that's the end of my comments tonight.
Councilor Abrams?
I don't know exactly what to say tonight. I appreciate the public thrashing, everyone. Thank you. I do appreciate it a lot. I have an observation that information and belief have a problem getting in the way of truth. And I don't know how to address that. And I'm just going to leave it at that. I still haven't seen any kind of,
I forgot, I'll email it to you tomorrow.
and maybe a water bill?
I don't pay utilities where I'm living.
Okay. I do.
I'm living in the casita that I could find to rent because the rental properties in Edgewood are not very available. It's a studio with all utilities paid by the landowner, and I will send you all the information that I have
Thank you.
tomorrow. I'll email it. Does anybody else want a copy of that emailed to them? Okay, Chuck and Leota? Okay, I will get that sent to you. Leota, I might need your contact information.
Is that it? Councilor Holly?
Okay, as some of you know, I'm on the board for the NCRTD, that is the North Central Regional Transit District, and I've mentioned here that they're undergoing an update to their transit service plan, and I just wanted to give you more information on that. Public and tribal council meetings were held in 22 communities served by the NCRTD, and one-on-one meetings with transit officials and stakeholders, as well as ride-alongs on the RTD routes occurred. Feedback from these meetings and rides will be incorporated into the plan, and the plan addresses the general needs of the traveling public as well as specific needs of subgroups such as the elderly, veterans, and people with special needs. The final document will be presented to the NCRTD Board in calendar year 2020 for adoption, and I will report back at a council meeting once presentation of the plan's findings and recommendations are made to the board. Also, I thought it was important to share with you about what a well-run organization the North Central Regional Transit District is. They were recently honored by the Government Finance Officers Association of the U.S. and Canada with the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting for its fiscal year 2018 Comprehensive Annual Financial Report. This marks the third of that association's top national financial awards that have been bestowed upon the NCRTD this year, and it follows the Distinguished Budget Award for the fiscal year 2019 annual budget and the Award for Outstanding Achievement in Popular Annual Financial Reporting. This makes that district one of only 5 governmental entities in the state of New Mexico to have garnered each of the 3 GFOA awards this year. As I was updating myself on what's going on with that regional transit district, I also came across information that I thought I'd share with you about Rio Metro. Rio Metro is continuing its seniors 62 and above ride free. They will continue that through 2020. This program allows seniors age 62 and above to ride any New Mexico Rail Runner Express train at no cost every Wednesday through the entire year. And the Rio Metro also offers the Freedom to Ride program. And this was recently expanded to include active duty military as well as veterans and anyone with a federally issued veteran or military photo ID. The program allows these individuals to ride the New Mexico Rail Runner Express for free. And just for information purposes, the Rio Metro Regional Transit District is the primary transit provider for Bernalillo, Sandoval, and Valencia counties. Finally, I have also been sharing with you my efforts in trying to get CNM to offer some classes in our area. I just got flyers today from CNM. So for their spring semester, they'll be offering 2 courses in our region. And the one is a course on careers in health, wellness, and public safety. And this will be an online career exploration class. But First Choice Clinic is partnering with CNM to include guest speakers to provide presentations on their staff, that work in medical, dental, nursing, and their business office about their occupations. And the second class that will be offered is a veterinary reception skills class. And this is to teach essential front office skills needed in the veterinary business. And it will also introduce vocabulary applicable to veterinary, agricultural, and retail animal care fields. Moriarty Edgewood School District is again partnering with CNM to provide classroom space. That class will be offered at the Edgewood Middle School on Monday and Thursday evenings from 5 till 6:30. My plan is to litter the region with this information. I'm not sure what the minimum required classroom size is, but I know if they don't get enough participants, they won't be offering these. I do have flyers set out on the table outside if anybody's interested in these, and if you need more information, please give me a call. That's all I have.
Thank you, Counselor.
Can I just make a comment to Counselor Holly real quick? On that free ride, the Rail Runner, is it any day, or is it just on Wednesdays as well for veterans and senior?
It did not limit it to any certain day.
Okay. The other recommendation I had is maybe post those on Nextdoor. That seems to get a lot of activity. It reaches a lot of people in this area. They might be really interested in finding out about those classes.
Okay, thank you.
Matters from the clerk treasurer, Mr. Torres.
Mayor Council, so with the holiday, I was not able to meet with the other local area banks to get all the information, so I'm hoping to have that meeting next week with them, so we can provide information, so if we can get that next meeting, but as soon as I have it available, I'll give it to you. I'll get it to you by probably email, just so you can look at it in advance. I did want to just publicly thank our road department and our maintenance department for taking care of the snow removal with the storm. One issue did kind of come up that it's a service we probably could be offering to get a list for individuals who's have medical conditions. I know in the past, I mean, if they call us and say, hey, I've got this, I have a heart condition, or I have something and I need to be able to get out. One of the issues that we're having is when we get a good snow like that and then the plow goes through, it puts the big windrow in front so they can't get their vehicles out. So working with Norton to possibly get some sort of list together so we have those houses identified, so when the plow does go through, we can, they can go and open the driveway, not plow their driveway for them, but at least open it so they can get out. And that came to my attention because one of the residents that happened to happen to, he said that was a service that Santa Fe County used to do. So just trying to work together and get some lists together. And as soon as we get more information, I'd like to get that out so people can, sign up for that, just so we're not blocking people in with medical conditions. And then Chief did have an announcement he'd like to make.
I know there was questions about the Citizens Police Academy. And so we're going to be posting that online here through our Facebook page, and we'll probably get it on the board there at 3:44 and I-40. The Citizens Police Academy is scheduled for March 2020, and it's that 10-week course. And I believe several members of the public, I don't know anybody in here, looking out at the crowd, that's attended it before, but it is open to everybody in the public. Will, yes, Councilor Hawley attended, I believe, our first one. Yes, so this will be our third year running, 10 weeks. We try to limit the class size to 10 to 15. That way you have more of a one-on-one experience with the instructors. So we'll be posting that starting tomorrow and accepting the applications on that. Yes, and an update on the animal control spay and neuter program. So we are in our second month now, and we have filled up with local residents both times, and we have a waiting list. So we are already full for December. This coming Wednesday, looking at the calendar here, the 11th is the next scheduled spay and neuter clinic. So that one is full as well, and we're already filling up January. So it's a big hit for the community for low-cost spay and neuters. And hopefully we'll see the payoff on that in the spring. And we see our general higher numbers come in.
Thank you. Let's take us a couple of 2 or 3 minute break. Next item is matters from the mayor. Councilor Abrams, I'm kind of like you tonight. Well, here we go, get blasted again on all sorts of stuff. I was born in the evening, but I wasn't born last evening. I can see the coordination at work here. But Councilor Jaramillo had some questions. She came out in a newspaper following our last meeting there. Basically says when she voted in June 2018 for the sewer extension to Church Cactus and Main Street, she objected that Bassett did not recuse himself, said she did not know the line would run through the Bassett property. She thought the line would run adjacent to the property. It's easy enough to go find those minutes. So in the minutes that night, we had discussion, consideration, action on issuing an IFB for sewer line construction on Church, Cactus, and Main. And It says it right here, just the way it worked out. Mayor Bassett stated, before we begin discussion, full disclosure and in accordance with the requirements set forth in the Town of Edgewood ordinance and in the Mexico Governmental Conduct Act, portions of this project will be constructed on property owned by the Bassett Trust.
Lift station.
Counselor, I didn't talk when you talked. Again, your words. She did not know the line would run through the Bassett property. Portions of this project will be constructed on property owned by the Bassett Trust. So then we go on down through here, and Counselor Jaramillo made a motion to ask me to recuse from the project. A vote was taken. There was 2 fors, 2 against, so it died for lack of a majority. Counselor Abraham that night asked for a map of the project, which was located on the wall of the community center. So there was plenty of evidence available that night where the line was going to go. I stated right up front, like you're supposed to, and made it quite clear, portions of it would be constructed on property owned by the Bassett Trust. When Counselor Jaramillo tells you she didn't know that, she's lying to you, plain and simple. No, don't talk up back there. I disclosed everything on that. There was a map in that room that night. Everything was clear and above board. There's nothing else much to say about that. We've plowed that ground till it's ready to drift and blow. It was done correctly. Randy Audio, our town attorney, was there that night. He saw everything, made sure we followed everything to the rule, and we did. And for you to come along and keep throwing that up like, well, I didn't know this or I didn't know that, you knew. But your problem is getting that finger up, see which way the current political winds are blowing. Now, what I see here tonight, Mr. Scrunch's eyes, but anyway, so all this stuff, Jerry Powers, you, it's a nice little coordinated effort. They all get up and claim the same old thing, all this and that. There was nothing wrong with that comp plan. The pictures are in the plan there showing people from the public in there giving their 2 cents worth. I didn't direct anybody to do anything. I didn't write the final version up. I want to see it get done. I'd like to see that. I mean, we've waited now 11 years. They tell you to try to update it every 5. Why not get it done? There's some mistakes and stuff that were found. I think we did a pretty good job tonight of locating some problems with it, and we'll get them fixed. This whole story here on that last meeting, and then like I say here, we get it again tonight. Again, I see the coordination in it. It's pretty obvious, but, you know, it's EPCOR behind all of it. Everything is EPCOR. It's all EPCOR based. I had a guy ask me about one of them mailers today. I tell him it's all EPCOR. That's what's got everybody all worked up. So we will try to get to that in due time. But I just wanted to make you people aware that in her comments, Counselor Jaramillo was wrong on that. She knew better that night. It's in the minutes here, plain as day. I said right up front, didn't hide anything, followed the letter of the law. So when I see that, I mean, you know, she's deceiving you, plain and simple. But I understand that. Counselor Jaramillo is pretty ambitious, and I think she's got her eye on the chair I'm in right now. And she's, you know, she never misses a chance to get a lick in on anything we do. She brings up that 2004-07, and a couple meetings back, I showed pictures of the stuff the town had did over the years, roads, buildings, stuff like that. Every bit of those projects went in with 2004-07 in place. Didn't stop anybody from doing them things. She's the first one that's come along and can't seem to get anything going. The sewer plant and all that was built. The roads around here you see paved, all of them done with 2004-07 in place. She's the first one. What I hear from the stuff is how great she is, how lucky we are to have her, she can't seem to get anything going. She's coming up on 2 years here and still hasn't been able to come with any project or anything that she's initiated. The little stuff with the capital assets and that, Juan was headed to do that anyway. I mean, we got all that stuff in, the different stuff, but from her, haven't seen anything. She tells everybody, well, it's 2004-07, just got me tied up in knots. The rest of them, one of them pictures I showed was Councilor Abrams' thing out there, the windmill generator there at the sewer plant. He got that in, and he got help from the other council members and stuff at the time, but they got it in and got it built. Same way with the roads, the buildings, this building we're in here now, all that done, people working together up here, working with people with ideas from you people in the audience. She comes along and just dead in the water. She tells you there at the last meeting. She's been over a year trying to get that resolution changed. Rest of us didn't even hardly know the thing existed. All them sewer plant, buildings, roads, all done with 2004-07 in place. She just can't seem to get it done. So she makes it out like we're trying to stop her from something. We're not stopping her from anything. But she tells everybody that's the way it is. And like I say, she's got other designs on stuff here. You listen to her, that's the way she works. And so she ends up sort of just being over there on the right end, criticizing everything, and then she has you all come in, pre-planned, I can see that. We see the rows of comments come up. Got Ray Seegers out there, he's been getting up, complaining about transparency. That wastewater line over in Walker Road, that went in right next to your property in 2015. I could bring forth minutes about that, except they don't exist. Council didn't vote on any of that. There was no public anything, no involvement whatsoever, and you were a beneficiary of that. Transparency, well, that's something else. Yes, need it now, but not then, right? So, I mean, this transparency thing, we hear that all the time, but what I lived through for all them other years, there wasn't a whole lot of transparency. You and Mr. McGill snickered at each other. His wife's on that, she's one of the property owners there with you. You look at that thing, it's got you and Kay Ann Davis on there. Kay Davis McGill. So, you know, I mean, I get what's going on here. You've had your little meeting up at Legacy there. Now it's a coordinated effort to come out and hammer on us every night. We get it, part of the territory. But all that stuff is just basically, you know, made up. This stuff about the line running through our place, that's through there. That was the way the engineers designed it. Jerry Powers comes with his comment about, well, they put them where you tell them to. I didn't tell anybody to put it there. Draw runs downhill. You follow the grade of that down there to it. Jerry Powers. Who can ever forget one of his famous comments? It was at a Santa Fe County. They were reworking their land development use code. Their like subdivision ordinance and that, and he got up there one night in Stanley and told him, well, I don't want anything that would interfere with me and General Motors getting a factory set up on my farm there northwest of Moriarty. It's got Wiley Johnson's old place.
That's a lie, sir.
And I don't see a General Motors plant down there, but that's the kind of stuff, you know, he gets up, this little recording he's done. He used to come to the community center years ago and did it. He didn't have the little camera like he's got now. He had a little bit bigger, bulkier thing. He's come to these meetings way years ago, and then he drifted off to something else. Comes and goes, but I guess EPCOR's got him now working for him.
Do I get equal time, sir?
No, you don't. This is my matters from the mayor. I'm just responding to stuff I heard tonight. So, you know, I just ask you people to bear with us. We're trying to get that information around so we can share it with you. That's what I've been telling you. I'm trying to get it to come on, and so we can have that discussion, but it's just not ready yet. But like I say, when I see something like this, and it comes out in the paper where I'm basically made out to be a liar, the record is right here. It's clear as day. It's available to anybody who wants to dig into it. I disclosed that night. Everybody was aware of what the situation was. She wouldn't have made that motion to have me recuse if she didn't think there was an issue. So she knew it that night. But she has to make her little play here, and that's what you're seeing. So I guess I'll just conclude it like that. I don't think a lot of good is being done with all this coming out and hammering on us every meeting. We're trying to do a good job up here. We've worked on a lot of stuff like this building we're sitting in now. And we've done some good things, and I hope to keep doing good things. But this sort of manufactured outrage at every little old thing, now the comp plan's coming into play, and oh, well, it's a problem. It was never a problem. But now it is, and it's like, let's make a mess out of that too. These are all things that, has been working on for a long time. Come in here and tell us, nobody would let us talk or anything at the meetings. I didn't hear that. I sat back there and listened, seemed like everybody talked. They had them big white paper boards up, and they were writing stuff on them, and it come out in the report. And like I say, this is not a thing where it's been, made up out of whole cloth. It's basically an update of the 2008 one. Most of the same topics are in there. So, you come along and just basically try to make a mess out of everything. And I get that. That's what the spirit of the moment is. But really, you need to step back, take a breath. We will get to this other stuff in time. In the meantime, let's get on with our next item. So that would be action items. First up is discussion, consideration, action on Resolution 2019-24, adopting the comprehensive land use plan for the town of Edgewood. Maida, you want to come up? Go ahead.
Well, so there's several edits for some omissions and things to add that I saw, and I'm sure you all have a lot more. And I know that in addition to that, you'd like to perhaps discuss the timeframes. That came up quite a bit, so I'll leave that up to you. Several things, the equestrian center, clarifying some language, the maps that were duplicates.
So what was the language there on the equestrian center that needed clarified?
Let's look.
Not a lease.
Counselor Abraham, did you have the page number on that?
It's 43.
Thank you.
Up here on the equestrian center?
That's just a discussion that's not there.
Counselor Abraham, didn't you have something in that paragraph there that?
I did.
Linda Burke had mentioned inserting Edgewood after and, equestrian center and Edgewood Hopes. I don't know if that's appropriate on that.
Let's see.
So it's the expired part, that we hope to enter into an agreement that had expired to operate it.
And that's the one that expired back in 2012 or whatever?
Apparently.
Right, Mayor, Council, if I may. So that one, once again, that was just that 2012, the agreement that expired in 2012 was a maintenance cost-sharing agreement between the town and the county. And once again, I believe it expired right around the time the thing was actually constructed.
Yeah.
But there's never been
So
another agreement since
yeah.
then.
So then I feel like that whole thing just needs to be stricken. Santa Fe County owns the equestrian center, and just leave it at they own the equestrian center.
Mayor,
Counselor Armijo?
I think we heard from Mr. Seegers that there is a problem with that, though, because it sounded like there was water freezing or some, some issues that somebody does need to be maintaining it. So we can't just leave it the way it is here.
Well, my comment is that it doesn't need to be part of the comp plan. There's some very specific things in here and then some very general things. And so I think sometimes we get real specific on this and then don't even talk about roads, or, it's the inconsistency of when we're specific and when we're vague. So I don't see, if we want to enter into an agreement, does that really have anything to do with the comp plan?
It's a good question. Was this one of the items in the old 2008?
I don't think it
Have to look.
existed.
But so the hope in the comp plan, and I see what you mean about inconsistencies, is to fill in as much background information as possible about existing conditions, and then the part that's more broad and open is the goals and the overall vision, so that can be a guiding point but not binding, limiting point. So if there's information you think that is too specific or should be added, that's okay, we can edit that here.
Yeah, see, that wasn't even in the 2008 one.
Yeah, because it wasn't open
Yeah.
until after that.
So I had added that sentence after speaking with Karina in Parks and Rec and also with Maria Lohman at Santa Fe County. And I asked her specifically if that was public and set in stone enough to be included in a comp plan, and she had said yes. I don't have any further information regarding that, but we could take it out.
Or maybe if we feel like, she feels like we feel like it needs to be in there, just say, that Santa Fe County and the town of Edgewood hope to continue a mutual
We need to get that
relationship.
verified, though.
It was just her giving me more background information, so we could take it out. It's fine either way.
And then the other part about the 80-acre BLM, I don't like that due to the lead contamination from bullets, it has become clear that intensive remediation would be needed in order for this site to be leasable.
So that was, I apologize, I don't have that plan in front of me. I believe that was from a report by the National Park Service. It was either from that or from talking to town staff.
But as I understand it on that one, from talking to Roger Holden, it was the thing where we don't lease it at the current time, and to get a lease, they would need that lead stuff remediated.
That was the impression I had.
Right.
Okay, then I think we need to remove that, that piece of property on page 42. It shows that it's Edgewood open space. So if it's not something we're currently renting or leasing or responsible for, my feeling is it needs to not be on there.
What I did was use the map that was consistent with the one used in that process in the National Park Service process, but I can explain it differently or take it out, that's fine. But that's what that's representing.
I think it's just contradictory. It's saying, we can't lease it, we should not lease it, and then it shows it here as open space.
Sure. These were the areas that were explored in that report.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor,
Counselor?
I do disagree with that. I think that it should stay in here because open space is so important to Edgewood. And even though it is not available to be leased at this moment, we don't know what could happen 5 years from now. So I think it's good to show that we have open space here it's a big part of the Edgewood lifestyle.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, ma'am.
Just to follow on to what Councilor Jaramillo just said, this key does say the blue areas are the plan focus areas, so it's just something that we've been focusing on
For the open
as a
space,
town, yeah.
non-motorized trail.
But I also have a suggestion. I think we get in trouble when we try and update, change, edit things on the fly, and there's a lot here. We heard a lot of good comments from not only council, but also the citizens that attended this evening. I would wonder if there is interest in having a special meeting to just focus on this and get it done once and for all, and before the contract ends.
Well,
That's a suggestion.
I'd be willing to go for that.
yeah.
Okay. A public meeting or?
Well,
Be a public
Okay.
hearing, yes.
All right.
Absolutely.
council meeting. Well,
So Mayor, I make a
Month.
motion that we hold a public hearing about the comp plan specifically and revisit this in a special meeting.
what time you got in mind, Counselor?
It's not good to do around the holidays because everyone is traveling and busy and gone.
And I think we should coordinate with Ms. Rubin as well.
Yes.
2 weeks.
Oh, but we can
We
extend
can
the
extend.
What would work for the council?
I would suggest sometime mid-January.
Not here, but anywhere.
Af-
I really appreciate the ability
Yeah, no, that's
Early
important.
January.
to, before the 12th?
Before the 12th.
You already got the meeting for the 8th.
21st.
I believe the contract ends on the 18th. I think I have the date here. But if the intention is to do edits all at once and have that be before the 18th, I believe would be fine. And I know it's very hard around the holidays.
Yeah.
I do think we should still give her the changes tonight that she can do by then. And maybe we have, I don't know, maybe the 11th, Saturday, when other people could come.
Saturday's work.
17th, just for the record, I think is the end. Would you say that date one more time?
The 11th, Saturday?
Well, Maida, what would it take to extend the contract a little bit?
I can get back to you on that.
Okay.
But January 11th is fine for me.
That works for me.
January 11th?
It'll be the Friday.
Oh,
Oh. maybe
Saturday,
I got that
2020.
wrong.
It's a
Oh,
Saturday.
yeah, wrong year.
2020, yeah.
Is the 11th Saturday?
11th
Yeah.
Saturday.
Okay.
Wrong year. My bad.
It's all right.
What time works for the council and the mayor?
Well, if it's a Saturday, probably make it about 10 o'clock in the morning, won't it?
That's fine.
In the meantime, one of the things was the sewer map. I think you can draw them lines wherever, just along Church and 344 and Old 66, easy enough. Walker Road. And maps on 44 and 48. Let's see. One on 48 that needs a road map.
Correct. And I'd love to add the blue bus and the park and ride to the traffic flow map.
We said that we were going to add Appendix D, the survey.
Yeah, that one too.
We also had a couple of comments about adding reference to the 2015 asset management plan and the 2016
Yep.
PER.
Say that one more time, I'll write it down.
The 2015 asset management plan we paid for, and then the 2016 PER.
Oh, and Linda Burke's issue on the two other.
Ms. Burke brought up page 39, wastewater disposal system,
Those two paragraphs.
about the issues.
Wordsmith them a little.
All clear.
And I can get with Ms. Burke on that. I can also change the reference to affordable housing on page 76 to attainable housing.
Maybe just take those words out.
Yeah, I think just take it out. Okay. Because the sentence says they weren't in favor of it.
Correct, thank you.
Counselor Abraham, maybe you want to run through your list to make sure.
I did look through here. A lot of them are, ongoing, the
timeframes?
The timeframes, so, but yeah, the 44, 48, 47, and no blue bus, the equestrian center, the 80 acres, the PER, the map, and the words remove affordable housing. Those were what I had.
For the BLM land, is there specific language you'd like me to put in there or remove?
Well, we're probably going to need to discuss that,
Okay.
because the same thing with the equestrian, how important is it to be there, or how confusing is it to be there? So,
Yeah, and that all is there for background information, so if you think it's confusing or too much, that's fine. You can take it out.
Mayor, can I add something?
Sure.
I just want to make sure that we put another appendix in there to add the survey information on there.
Got it.
Okay, thanks.
The survey report, including the write-in comments.
Yes.
Up here at the front where the index is or whatever. Yeah. Table of contents. Yeah. Appendices.
I did appreciate Mr. Anaya's comment on ensuring that we have the stakeholders involved, so maybe we'll just try to reach out to any entities that need to give feedback on this and let them know about the meeting. But on page 38, he had some concerns about the wording, leaving out the annexed area, or just being like inconsistent wording in comparing EPCOR to Entranosa. And I would guess that EPCOR has updated numbers.
Yeah, the language was from the website, and I'd love to have the most current information and have it reflected equally. If that doesn't appear to be the case, I'd like to do that.
Yeah. Did you guys reach out to the school district and to EVCA?
I personally did not. I know that to get some background information, staff provided some numbers on the enrollment numbers, what the potential enrollment could be.
I talked to EVCA. I got those numbers.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
I talked to EVCA. I got the numbers from them.
Mr. Mayor, we've got a motion and a second.
Okay.
Discuss all we need.
I think so.
We'll start down there. Counselor Jaramillo.
Aye.
Counselor Abraham.
Aye.
Counselor Abrams.
Aye.
Counselor Holly.
Aye.
Okay, that one's passed.
We have need for posting the meeting for Saturday, January the 10th. One topic on that agenda.
11th.
Or
The 11th.
Okay. Still in the wrong year.
And I will update the information per what you just said and include that in a different draft for you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item then is our yearly visit with the Uniform Traffic Code. Discussion, consideration, action on ordinance 2019-05, adopting the changes to the New Mexico Uniform Traffic Code, repealing, replacing ordinance 2018-09. Who's going to speak to this one, Chief?
Mayor, council, what you have before you is the changes that have come down from Santa Fe. We're just now getting around to them whenever they sent them to us. The larger packet there for 2019-05, there's a single page, that's the changes that were made in that entire packet. So it's adding the driving while intoxicated with a minor in the vehicle. It's making it a specific crime to drive with a child under 13 years old. So 0 to 12 years old, if you have a child in the vehicle and you're intoxicated, it adds a separate offense. The next change would be the addition of driving while license is suspended or administratively suspended. And that would be suspended if you didn't pay your court fines, do your community service, or show up for court at all. So it'd be a different category than a regular revoked license or suspended for points, something like that. And then it talks to the court's role in that as far as the fines and potential imprisonment. And then, let's see here, mandatory financial responsibility. This is the act that allows individuals to show like their Progressive Insurance or Geico over the phone to the officer. So we've accepted that for years since I've been here, but now it's actually a state law that law enforcement has to accept that digital insurance copy now. So, and then it also puts in there that they're not responsible for any damage, anything like that, if the person's holding out the window and drops it. So those are the changes right there. Then we have the unlawful use of a license, and it's just taking out the upon conviction, the person shall be punished. So it just changes that wording to may be punished pursuant to subsection B 12.6. So it takes out the mandatory 4 days on there, and it leaves the discretion up to the judge. And with that, I'll stand for any questions on that.
Council have any questions for Chief?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
That section 12.6.12.7, I was reading through there, and it's a little strange. The upon conviction, comma, section,
Yeah.
I don't know if this is a typo or a misprint or what, but I'm going to read this out loud and let me see if anybody here can tell me what this really means.
This microphone?
Yeah.
Section 12.6.12-7, unlawful use of licensed driving when privileged to do so has been suspended or revoked. It states no person shall, and it goes through 6 items. Item 6, third sentence, upon conviction, the person may be punished by imprisonment for not less than 4 days pursuant to subsection B, section 66.8-7, NMSA set 1978 for no more than 90 days or participation for an equivalent period of time in a certified alternative sentencing program, and there may be imposed in addition, a fine of not more than $500. Now, my question is, may or shall?
That, Counselor, Mayor, the upon conviction, the person shall is a strike-through. That was the old law. They were removing it, and it's being replaced by a maybe.
I don't have the strike-through in my copy.
This one here.
That could be the problem. Yeah, okay. That was just, because I read through the changes and I was just like, wait a minute, this doesn't look right. So evidently I don't have the strike-through copy. Okay.
What were the other changes, Chief?
The others,
Here.
like I said, the addition of 12.6, 12.3, the driving while intoxicated with a minor in the vehicle.
Right.
The associated language, and the addition of 12.6, 12.8, driving while license administratively suspended, the language that goes with that, and then the financial responsibility, providing it over the cell phone instead of a paper copy out of the vehicle. Those were the additional statutes placed in there through the state that we'd be adopting. And then the parking in designated and disabled parking spaces, that is just an addition of a sentence about midway down in the paragraph. It states a designated accessible parking space for persons with significant mobility limitations. So they're parking in or near the handicap marked stalls, like at Walmart or something, vans that park sideways. So if, say, a horse trailer pulls in and blocks a portion of that where they can't get the lift gate or something down, would be in violation of that ordinance now.
So council, if you don't have any other questions for Chief Crow, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make the motion to approve ordinance number 2019-05, an ordinance adopting the New Mexico Uniform Traffic Ordinance by reference. Is that correct? It's not code, it's ordinance?
Yes, it's the Uniform Traffic Ordinance.
Okay. Or traffic ordinance.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve ordinance number 2019-05, an ordinance adopting the New Mexico Uniform Traffic Ordinance by reference. Start down there, Counselor Abraham.
Aye.
Counselor Abrams.
Aye.
Counselor Holly.
Aye.
Counselor Harmio.
Aye.
Thank you, council.
Now the other half.
And this one is ordinance 2019-06. Chief, why don't you tell us what's in this one?
Mayor, council, the only change to this, the penalty assessments have remained the same, the base penalty assessment plus the $29 court cost. The only addition is the new laws that were placed on the one we just discussed, which if you look at the very end, you will see driving while license administratively suspended. It is a $25 fine in addition to the $29 court cost. And that is the addition to this document.
That one thing down there at the bottom.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Council have any questions for Chief?
I do have a question about the way the ordinance is written. On our agenda, under action item 4C, at the very end of this item, it says repealing and replacing ordinance 2018-10, and I don't see that reference anywhere in the ordinance.
I'm sorry, Counselor, Chief, do you mind if I address this? Because Counselor Holly asked me that question earlier. Juan and I were lucky enough today to be at a conference next to all the municipal attorneys, and they said that was fine. That statement at the end covers that, so it
Okay.
doesn't have to call it out specifically in the ordinance. It was listed that way on the agenda, just to be clear.
Okay.
But the repeal and replace language in the ordinance itself covers that.
Thank you.
Of course.
No other questions, I'll entertain a motion on this one.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve ordinance 2019-05, repealing and replacing ordinance 2018-09.
This one's 06, 2019-06.
06, I'm sorry, and replacing 2018-10.
Got a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve adopting the changes to the New Mexico Uniform Traffic Penalty Assessments and repealing and replacing ordinance 2018-10 with ordinance 2019-06. Start here, Counselor Abrams.
Aye.
Counselor Holly.
Aye.
Counselor Harmio.
Aye.
Counselor Abraham.
Aye.
Council? Next item is discussion, consideration, action on the financial report for the month of October. Mr. Torres.
Mayor, Council, so you see the report before you. One thing you'll notice on the GRT distribution, so we did receive the payment for our hold harmless from the previous month. So once again, the roller coaster continues, but at least Tax and Rev is giving us updated information. I believe at the last time I spoke about it, they said that they were aware of it and they will correct it next month. So they did do that. So at least, we're thankful for that. You can just see industry-wise, construction went down. Retail trade kind of stayed right around, a little bit below average. Everything's still kind of on par with where it should be. Moving into the council report in front of you, so some kind of big items to look at is you have Alred Landscaping, and that was for the Church Street project, where the town moved the existing fence along Church Street and move that over, so that total is $16,756.08. That is part, and once again, that is part of the Church Street project.
A question, is that part of the Church Street wastewater project or the Church Street paving project?
Mayor, Council, that is part of the Church Street paving project. It actually should have been part of the original sewer project, but it never, they didn't move the fence at that time. When the town would originally put in the original sewer line in, 2008, 10? Well, whenever they put that in, part of the thing that they were supposed to do was move the fence and hydro seed that area. That didn't happen. But with the Church Street paving project, we have to move the fence anyway because the fence is currently going to be right where the ditch is. So we moved the fence back, and it's still within our easement, and it just kind of leaves the existing other utilities, the sewer, the water line, the gas lines, it leaves them in that easement. It just puts the fence on the outside of that.
Okay. And where was it billed under?
Mayor, Council, that was built under our capital projects for Church Street.
Okay, paving.
And then you also just, large items, so you do have Horrocks Engineering for Church Street, $43,880.
What was that for?
Engineering design.
Is that the drainage issue?
Mayor, Council, I'm not sure offhand what that one, what all encompasses on that billing. I think it's probably drainage and trail were the three things they're still working on. And then, of course, we have Robles Rail Anaya, has been mentioned earlier tonight. The large one on there, $18,284, was for EPCOR water system.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
I would like to see if we could get a total of what has been spent on that project, attorney-wise, legal fees, inspections, appraisals, just a figure for us at the next council meeting or the next financial review.
All right, Mayor, Council, so that kind of sums up all the large ticket items. If you have any other specific questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Any questions for Mr. Torres?
No, that was it for me.
And I'll entertain a motion on this one.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the financial report for the month of October 2019.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the financial report for the month of October 2019. Start here, Counselor Holly.
Aye.
Counselor Abrams.
Aye.
Counselor Abraham.
Aye.
Counselor Jaramillo.
Aye.
Next item's calendar review. The first thing up is this Friday night, Christmas tree lighting down here at Tavenas Park, December 6th. Time's all that start, Carla?
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
Mayor, I do have a concern that just popped into my mind after we set the special meeting on the calendar. I was hoping that you guys could check with legal counsel on the validity of all of the action taken because of the nepotism ordinance. And the reason I'm asking this, to find out if the process was legal and if the votes of P&Z were legal, is because we have a client that last year the school board members illegally appointed 2 other school board members, and then everything since they were appointed, the judge determined was not valid. And so I guess that's just my concern in thinking about the comp plan and P&Z and the whole, the whole process and the special meeting coming up. It would be good to know if we need to cure that in some way.
Next regular council meeting will be December 18th in here at 6:30 PM. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Did you
Mayor, I
list
make
the
a
special?
motion to adjourn.
Did you list the special meeting?
Oh, not on here, but would be for January 11th.
10 a.m. here?
Yep.
I'll second the motion.
January 11th. Yep, 2020. 10 a.m. Motion's been made, seconded, adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?